Hi, I'm here with HiFiMan Sundaras, and these are a new $500 pair of headphones which I gather are a replacement for the 400 series. Now, I want to check these out because I want to see if you could get a good pair of $500 headphones, and I recently reviewed headphones in the kind of $700 to $800 range, such as, the Massdrop Focal LX, Campfire Audio Cascades, and the recent Mr. Speaker's Eon Eon Flow Open and Closed. And I want to see how close could these get to those kind of $700 and $800 headphones. Now they have a new much thinner driver and new enclosure, and that's kind of interesting. I mean, it's kind of the design is the name means beautiful supposedly, but these are a kind of very industrial looking, kind of stamped sheet metal kind of design. They're kind of very beautiful, maybe in an industrial kind of way, which is kind of funny. As they come in this kind of like this lined box, and they're supposed to look all beautiful, and they kind of got this very industrial profile. They've got this. The grill is very kind of basic woven metal, but they're attractive in their own way. And I mean, they're still a simple design. They've got a kind of plastic or pleather maybe head pad. You've got the basic sheet metal stuff here and plastic on the sides. But they do have the new ear pads from, say, like since the HC1000 V2 and down. They've got this new cloth lined ear pads, which are really nice. Now, comfort and adjustment wise, this is the only thing that's kind of negative about them, is that you can adjust them like any other headphones by sliding this in and out, but you kind of sound really kind of grating. And they, as you can hear if I put them near the microphone, they creak a bit. Now once you get them on your head, they don't creak. So if I shake my head now, there's no creaking going on. But you can't adjust them while they're on the head too well. They kind of lock in place. So you kind of have to pull them off, and it kind of feels really basic. And the other thing is they don't tilt. There's no forward and back. I mean, there's some obvious creaking going on, but they don't really kind of adjust forward and back for best comfort. Though the ear pads are angled, so there is some comfort there. So, but once you're on the head, they're fairly comfortable. They're not heavy. They're fairly lightweight, despite this kind of pressed metal design. And as well, the cable. The cable is this basic affair, terminated in a right-angled 3.5mm plug, as you see thus. And on the other end, you've got 3.5mm connectors. So you can use any headphone cable, say from the Focal LX or LER, or you can use like Sony cables or similar, or anything which uses the standard tip and sleeve for 3.5mm jack. And the best thing about it is the sockets are flush, so that you can plug these cables in easily. Now, even if they use big chunky plugs or small plugs like these do, so no issues about having to find a special plug for them. The interesting thing about that is they got a very good firm connection. I pushed them in and I put the headphones on my head and I got no music coming through, and I thought, oh god, I haven't got a dud pair, have I? But actually it turned out you have to push them in very firmly. There's another kind of millimeter there that you have to push them in before they actually connect. So, but at least they stay in nice and firmly. And so since they do clamp, well, not too firmly, but reasonably firmly onto your head, shake my head around, they slide a bit, but you can probably air guitar and get away with it. For people who like an even lighter clamp, you're kind of stuck because the head pad is fixed. And that's as far as you can stretch it, obviously. But this metal bends reasonably easily, so you can give it a good push with your thumbs and kind of bend it a little bit. But, I wish, if anything, you could kind of bend it a bit forward and back, because I'd like a little bit more forward tilt to them would have been nice. But all the same, they're comfortable enough. But it's the sound that's where these are really interesting. I wasn't quite sure what to expect, as some of the old HiFiMan headphones, such as the old HE5, I think I had HE5 LE, they had a very kind of V-shaped sound. They had this big bass and then a drop in the mids and this mushy mids and then this big treble pick that made them very bright. These are very even sounding. Now, I don't want to use the word neutral because, neutral is, there's all arguments over that. But, we're talking about no major emphasis in any particular frequency response. So, there's something of, a bass in there, and then there's the treble is, not too bright such that, modern music becomes irritating, and not too dark that, acoustic music becomes kind of too dull. And I think it's really spot on. But that being said, everyone has what's called a null in their hearing, a point kind of in the high treble where you get a kind of a sudden drop. And if the high frequency, the peak matches your null, then the headphones will sound really dark. So just a note there that to me these sound absolutely spot on, but it could be just that they fit my hearing perfectly. But the thing that's nicest about them, now as I said, these use new drivers which are much thinner. Now the sound with them is more to me like an electrostat. Now there's still old electrostats had kind of boomy bass if you lost seal and that kind of thing, but we're talking about like kind of somewhere between a planar and electrostat, in that they're very fast and kind of very precise. And I say electrostat like because when you play music, even now when I'm speaking, if I move my hands in towards the side here, you can hear the change just like an electrostat. You can hear the sound bouncing off and then affecting the diaphragm. But even my voice bouncing around this room, if I do that, move my hands in, I can feel how it bounces off my hands and then bounces onto the driver and affects how my perception. That's how quick they are. Now, they're not the most detailed headphones. I've got plenty of more detailed headphones here. But the thing that's really awesome about them is how, well, the bass is very precise, the mid-range is very precise as well, but the treble is fantastic. It is one of the cleanest trebles I've heard on any pair of headphones, bar, really high-end stuff. It's smooth, like it's as if there's no distortion. Now, of course, there can't be no distortion, but we're talking like there's zero harshness. It is just a pleasure to listen with. And the interesting thing for me was, of course I've got headphones that are more detailed. Of course I listen to music that's more detailed. But the cleanliness of the treble in these made it not matter that I wasn't getting the ultra micro fine detail. There's still a lot of detail and they're still very quick headphones, but it was the cleanliness of the sound that just makes them really nice to listen with. And this has another side-on effect because, they're $500 headphones. I plug them into the high-end gear, obviously, but obviously I want to see how well they scale as you go up gear and how far you can go before they kind of, you'd be overspending too much on gear to match with these headphones. So to that end, I plugged them into the basic stuff like the Blue Wave Get, which I reviewed before, and that powered them fine. I mean, not brilliantly, obviously, you lose a little bit of kind of precision in the bass kind of goes out first. You kind of notice a little bit of woolliness come in there. Jumping up, I think the really nice match was the Theo Q5, which is I'm going to review soon. This is, I find this, it's got adjustable digital filters, and I found the stock kind of linear filter just a touch harsh. The smoothness of the Sundaras, this was a really nice match. And the thing for me is that because they're fairly flat sounding, with some music, you want a little bit more bass, for example. So with these, it has a bass boost switch on the front. So if you switch on the bass boost, and it fills out the bass just a little bit more, quite nicely for some of the modern music I like. Now, sometimes I like a bit of bass kick, like with the good old Cascades. But these are kind of more tuned towards, like the Massdrop Focal LX and Mr. Speaker's Eon Flow Open. They're kind of very close in that kind of tuning. So sometimes, a little bit more bass is kind of nice. Likewise, HiFi's XDSD. This has a bass boost too, and the 3D effect. Now the bass boost, of course, doesn't fill up the bass quite like the Theo does, but it adds a little bit more, and that's kind of nice. The 3D effect, well, that's interesting because the soundstage perception with these with the Sundaras is pretty good. So, but the interesting thing I noticed jumping up to the LX was that the sense of depth increased. Now the focals are really good with an expression, picking out the depth of music. So the Sundara is just a bit more kind of wall of sound, and the LX was a bit, and the Eon Flow Open were a bit more kind of depth in that kind of sense. So that was interesting. So I thought, I'll see, does it scale up to the good old Mojo? And with the Mojo, I could still notice like a little bit more kind of sense of depth with these, and then say the XDSD, which different technology going on in there. But above the Mojo, there wasn't any benefit to going with the high-end gear, obviously, with these, because it kind of hit the limit of how much detail they could retrieve. But what was nice is just, again, overall, how pleasant they are to listen with. So if you're thinking, these are obviously going to be a jump up from lower-end cans, and they're, big jump up from the K7XX, which are floating around behind me. But they're not quite at the level of the $700-800 can. So there's still a jump up there, depending on your budget. Someone's going to ask, is it worth jumping up to these? These are, of course, the LX, the Focal headphones are really nicely made. They give a really good sense of depth. And they still take, a 3.5mm cable. So they're still fairly convenient and very comfortable. And, of course, they've got that nice front to back tilt. They creak a little bit too. But, so in that, I think, for me, the Sundaras are really excellent. And it was just one little thing that I didn't like, which is this kind of creaky, basic adjustment, and this plastic here. They're so close to being the perfect $500 can. and they're so nice to listen with. So that is my assessment of the HiFiMan Sundaras, and I think these are going to be a big hit there. So I'm really, I could pick them up and I can enjoy listening, which is the main thing. And it's just one little thing away from being perfect. So I hope you did like my review. Before you go, I have a quick message I'd like to tell you. Thanks for watching the video. Before you go, did you know that my videos are entirely supported by people like you? For the equivalent of buying me a coffee once in a while, you'll get to see the rough cuts in advance. You can also interact with me on chat or email me for advice, or generally interact with the little community we have going of Patreon supporters. Head over to patreon.com/Currawong for more information. Also, there'll be written reviews of this product on my website, which you can access easily at here.reviews. And if you don't want to sign up to be a patron, you can also support my videos by buying your headphones through the links on the sidebar. And in doing so, you'll help support independent reviews. Anyway, thank you very much, and I'll see you online.